Good afternoon. Welcome to the October 6th, 2020 meeting of the Town Council Charter Review Committee. In accordance with Massachusetts general law, this meeting is being videotaped and audio recorded, as well as being remotely broadcasted via a Zoom webinar. If there is anyone in the viewing audience who is taping this meeting, would you please announce yourself? Hearing, seeing no one, we have Mr. Tom Christensen has volunteered to take minutes at this meeting, and for some reason, I lost him for a second. We have minutes proposed for the meeting of September 29th, 2020. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Who said that?
I did.
Andy said it. And is there a second?
I'll second.
And Bill seconded. Is there any discussion? Yes, Ralph.
I just noticed when I was going through them that my last name does not have an I in it. It is spelled P-A-G-E.
Is that the revised or the new one, or the old one?
I have no clue. It's the one I just pulled up and was looking at.
How do you, oh, so you don't have an I?
No.
No.
You know, people pay extra
Well, I
for
have
an
two
I.
I's, but not in my name.
That's, you know, they do pay extra. Okay.
We'll just turn the page on that one.
Jeff, did you had other changes, Jeff? Can you tell us what they were?
Yes. Hang on, let me just open it up real quick. I guess it's not going to be quick. There it is. Okay. In the, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If you go down to where it says Chairman Larry Levine read item 7, in the last line of that paragraph,
Oh, I see.
the
I
word,
see the Y. The Y
Yeah.
that was at?
yeah,
Okay.
and it
What
said
was it?
made.
I didn't hear.
Yeah, may instead of made.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And then the last paragraph on that page, the third line from the bottom, it said responsibility, and I changed it to responsible.
Okay. And in the same paragraph where you changed to may, Jeannie, were you going to research that issue for us?
I was going to ask Mary McNally about a town report.
Okay.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
And I did. I can report that later.
And Phil, I have a question on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th paragraph, the second line. It says, as mentioned, Michael Caine. Was that supposed to be, I don't know what that was. Should that have been as mentioned by Michael Caine?
Michael Caine mentioned the fact that he was talking as a private citizen, not as a member of the town council.
So it should be by, not my.
Yeah, it should
Yeah.
be by.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so just change that to by.
Got it.
And
Done.
I think that's it. Any other discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor? William Fonseca,
Yes.
Larry Levine, yes. Phil Adams,
Yes.
Andy Fraser,
Yes.
Jeff Bosworth,
Yes.
Tom Christensen,
Staying.
and Ralph Page.
Abstain.
Okay, it's approved. Okay,
So Phil, I'll just change those on my own so I can post them tomorrow. You don't have to redo it.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. I got it done. I don't know. I would send it to you, but that's all right.
Okay, thanks.
okay. So we had ended last meeting with Article 3, Section 2, item number 19. We were still discussing that, and the discussion revolved around whether to consider limiting these vacancies to town residents or to leave it the way it is. So I open the discussion again. Yes, Jeannie?
So I did reach out to other towns and what they did for boards and commissions, and it's sort of a mixed bag. It seems the bigger towns or cities, you have to be a resident, and the smaller ones, you don't have to be a resident. And I don't know if that's just because there's less of a pool to pick from the smaller towns. So I don't know if that helps or doesn't help.
Okay. Any other?
So either way is acceptable?
Andy?
Yeah, and some people said, well, there's certain boards yes and certain boards no, and they didn't get into any detail. So it seems like it's all over the place.
Okay.
And does anyone know if we've ever appointed a non-resident to a town committee or board? Marilyn, you have your hand raised.
Yes, back, and this is a while ago, but when we had the form of selectman form of government, Jimmy Driscoll's board appointed a gentleman who lived in Pittsfield to be on the Council on Aging Advisory Board because he was the manager of Bluebird Estates here in East Long Meadow. So during the week, he worked in town and stayed in town, so he was able to participate on the Council on Aging Board for whatever time he served. That's the only one I know of.
Any further discussion? Yes, Ralph.
So I've been thinking about this, and this was one of the items that was brought up to us right at the beginning when the charter was going through its first approval and all, that some residents were concerned that non-residents could be on boards and could sway the town one way or another. My thought process on this has changed a little bit. Originally, I thought you had to be a town member. You know, you had to live in town to be on a board, except for the fact that I know many people that lived in town almost their entire life that may have moved over to Wilbraham, and their background would be, let's say, on conservation. And if they wanted to be on our conservation board, I don't think I would have an issue with it. I think ultimately the appointing authority gets a list of people and they choose, you know, the best candidate. I think it works the way it is, and I think we should leave it alone.
I agree.
I agree with that as well.
Bill?
Question, 19 doesn't say anything about, it says shall actively recruit candidates. It doesn't say whether it's in town or out of town.
That's correct.
That's
Yeah,
something that we're bringing up now.
Correct.
Correct.
Well, it was brought up, to Ralph's point, it was brought up when we were first drafting the charter. We chose to write it this way. But that was, 4 years ago, so times have changed. Thought processes have changed as well.
Yeah, but Bill, when you wrote that, were you thinking residents only? Or were you thinking anybody could be qualified?
Well, what we talked about was you don't want to leave yourself open for outsiders to come in and start changing things around, because if you kick that door open, you get 2 or 3 people that are in collusion together, they could actually change the way things are done on a certain board or commission. That's one of the dangers, and that's what we considered, because we were still in a delicate time back then when we first did this. So we were trying to be very aware of what was going on and then try and prepare for the future as well.
Jeff?
Well, when it comes to the Conservation Commission, it's pretty much defined. It's pretty much stated that the Conservation Commission is mandated by the federal government, and the mandate is that you uphold 310 CMR. And there's no room for sway there one way or the other. You're basically upholding the Wetlands Protection Act in town. So it really doesn't matter whether you're a resident or a non-resident.
Yeah, but that,
Yes, Phil?
Jeff, that doesn't say resident versus town resident. I mean, resident versus non-resident, right? You're just saying whoever's qualified to abide by the federal laws should be on the commission.
Right.
Yeah.
You're basically, you have to swear an oath that you will uphold the 310 CMR.
Yeah. Yeah. I just, myself personally, I have a concern with non-residents being on boards in our community. I think our policy as far as recruiting may be needed to be looked at and scrutinized and see if in fact we're doing the type of recruitment that we should. Just like Jeff said, he's been going 1.5 years trying to find a member. And I personally blame that on the recruitment. What are we doing? I mean, most of the people that are on committees are because of word of mouth. People are asking them, geez, would you like to get involved? Would you like to do this? And that's what the town manager and the town council tries to get people. I just don't think we're doing enough recruitment in order to get townspeople.
Well, we've
All right.
had,
Andy?
Question here, would this be something that the group would be interested in? Be appropriate or legal to put something in saying that while it is open to non-residents, no more than X number of residents per committee?
Interesting.
My 2 cents. In 4 years, we haven't seen any issue or problem with this. And I looked throughout the charter for anything regarding residency. And the only thing I found was in almost the last page. And it talks about the town manager shall assure timely appointments of members, and they shall establish and may establish a process whereby residents are notified of vacancies and may apply to serve, period. And that was a section on appointed boards. So at least the original Charter Commission, and this was really the interim transition provisions, there was some suggestion that appointment to those boards or committees, notice of the vacancy would be given to residents. My own personal feeling, if we haven't had a problem, if there hasn't been an issue, why would we change?
Yeah, that's a very legit point.
Marilyn?
You know, I'm thinking about this, and I agree, we haven't had an issue. However, I'm trying to think of the type of person that would want to serve that doesn't live in our town. And, you know, perhaps it's, as Ralph said, perhaps it's someone who had served and then moved to another community, like Eric Madsen. He left the council, but he is now back in East Long Meadow on the Brownstone Garden Board of Directors, because there's this sense of community and commitment. And I think that whatever would be the driving force for that non-resident, it would be somehow a good thing for East Long Meadow. Perhaps a business owner who lives in another community takes an interest in the Council on Aging Advisory Board or the Board of Public Works, and it's not a conflict with his job. There's a connection with East Long Meadow, though, and so I think that would be okay.
All right. Ralph?
I just wanted to point out real quick, Larry, that although the boards that we're talking about, you don't need residency, for an elected position as the town council or the school committee, you have to be a resident. So not that I'm saying one's more important than the other, but there is a certain section where there is residency required.
Okay, if that's the end of the discussion, do I hear or see any? I see a hand from Jeff.
Just to point out one other important factor here, that most of your boards in the commission, they're volunteers and they're non-compensated.
Correct.
Mm.
Do I hear or see any motion? Seeing none, I'll consider no action to be taken on item number 19. Item number 20. Again, these are powers of the town manager. Number 20, may, comma, with the approval of the town council, comma, establish, comma, reorganize, comma, consolidate or dissolve any department, comma, board, comma, committee, comma, commission or office, comma, as provided in Article 5. And we're going to come back to that when we do Article 5, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Moving on to Section 3, acting town manager.
Excuse me, Larry.
Mary, say it again, Jeannie?
Did you want me to report back on points 7 and 10?
Oh, yes,
before you
let's do
head?
that. Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Reminder.
Okay, so I sent Mary McNally both sections and asked her about it. And if you don't mind, I'll just read her response to you. So the first one was the full report. That's number 7.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, I suppose my reports to the town council are ongoing reports of operations, but I think this refers to the annual town report. I would expect to file something for calendar year 2020. And I think she's inferring that 2019 was sort of a transitional year there, and there was no town manager report in that annual report, but historically there is. So she expects to start that in 2020 again. As far as number 10, the inventory, she says inventory is listed on all insurance policies and maintained by the departments. The town manager's office can and does consolidate this information when required.
When required,
Right.
doesn't the town charter require it?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's stating here, that it's
Okay.
required by her.
Right.
So the response is that each department has their own,
Right.
but maybe we ought to talk to her about that.
Okay.
I don't know if that's our purview or, well, we can talk to her about that.
Okay.
So on number 7, yes, Ralph.
Sorry, if you want to finish those up, I'd just like to touch on number 14.
All right, let's do number 7 first. Do I hear any discussion, motion, etc.?
No action.
Okay. And for number 10,
I think we still have to talk to Mary.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Ralph, number 14.
Okay, so I went back through the minutes and there was no action taken on this.
Correct.
So it's basically shall be responsible for purchasing all supplies, materials, services, and equipment for all departments and activities of the town. So something came up recently that concerned me, and it has to do with our town attorney. So Mary, well, the town manager's in charge of hiring the town attorney, hence services. Our bylaw states that any department head or boards or committees can access the town attorney at any time for legal advice within their purview. So what I've seen with both Denise and now Mary is that because the budget's so tight that our bylaw says one thing, that a chairman of a board can contact our town attorney for legal advice, and our town manager saying, no, you can't do that without my authorization. And if I don't think it's a good enough reason, I'm not going to give you the authorization to do it because I'm in charge of purchasing services. I don't think that's what this meant. I think this means that she's in charge of hiring the attorney. She's hiring his services, but we have to follow the bylaw with regards to how his services are used. And I'm not sure if it's wording. I'm not sure if it's putting it into action, but I mean, with both of them, it was the same, that they were afraid, obviously, because it's their budget, that the budget's going to go out of control with all department heads asking the lawyer all different questions and having them research stuff. I don't know if there's a way to simplify it, fix it. I don't know.
I thought that the general bylaws, when we had selectmen, it left the departments that they could access the town's lawyer, but they needed selectmen approval.
So it's just the opposite, actually. They, under, I think it's 5.040, it states that they can access the town attorney, but upon doing so, they should notify the town manager that they have, just so that the town manager will have an ongoing record of it.
So that was a change from the former general bylaws?
I believe the general bylaw was changed to update to, instead of selectman, town manager.
Okay. Well, that's a big conflict then.
And I'm not sure if it's something with just the wording in the charter or putting it into practical use or the wording in the bylaw. So I wanted to bring it up before we just slid right by it.
I think that was part of the discussion in the original Charter Commission. And I think we were continuing where the town manager, replacing the town board of selectmen, had control of town's legal services, excepting school, and that that remained with the town manager. So therefore, it follows that the different departments and boards had to go through the town manager to make use of the town's lawyer. William?
To further keep talking about that, I think the reasoning was so that the town manager didn't get blindsided by anything.
Yeah.
Just to make sure everybody knew what was going on. It wasn't so much to prevent the department heads from accessing the town attorney. It was just keeping the town manager in the loop.
And I think, through the chair, I think, Larry, that's why the bylaw says that if you access the town attorney, you're to notify the town manager that you did, you know, so that way there you're keeping the person in the loop. Like I said, I have concerns because there's certain boards that need legal service, but the cost of legal service is expensive. Back when we had Attorney Donahue, he was basically on retainer, so that if any boards contacted him or whatever, that was part of his duty for his yearly pay. It was so much, you know, he went to all the Board of Selectmen's meetings and stuff like that. Then if he went above and beyond and had to litigate or something, that was an extra fee. But that's not the way it is now. The way it is now is an hourly rate. And
Right.
although it's very specific in our general bylaw that it really shouldn't be, it should be the way it used to be. I guess now most attorneys don't work like that. So.
Right, but if you if the general bylaw was changed where departments and boards could go straight to the lawyer, how does the town manager control the budgets?
Can't.
Yeah, and that's,
They can't.
but
So
then again,
what was the driving force of changing the general bylaw to allow that?
I don't believe it was a change in the general bylaw, Larry. I believe
Okay.
the general bylaw has been written that way, but the difference was back with the Board of Selectmen, if, let's say, the planning department had to talk to the attorney,
Yep.
that was under his yearly fee that we paid.
But if I recall, Marilyn, we still were asked before a different board would take advantage of the town, because Jim Donahue did charge beyond his retainer on special assignments.
I agree. You know, we have some individuals who are very needy or would be constantly calling the attorney for some guidance on a certain issue. And while that's what he's there for, there needs to be some control over use of that resource.
So Ralph, to get back to your point, how do you reconcile, how do you fix this problem if this conflicts with the charter?
Change the charter.
Ah,
See?
that's a big
So-
issue.
So
That is
Larry,
a big issue. I think it's going to be easier to fix the bylaw.
Yeah.
Yeah,
let me give you an example, Larry.
Yeah.
Back when I was on the planning board, the town council didn't like one of the decisions the planning board made.
Mhm.
So they appealed our decision to court.
Mhm.
And I personally went to the town manager and said, I'd like legal representation for the planning board.
Mhm.
We were denied. We were told, no, if you want to do it, fend for yourself in court. Attorney Donahue is going to back the town council, and you guys will not have an attorney. I don't think that's right. I think if I'm going to basically put my time in, my 5 years, and try and help the town and all, if something
Mhm.
like that comes up, you know what, the town should back all boards. It was very frustrating at the time. And a matter of fact, we lost a member of the planning board. She resigned because of it. It wasn't right at the time.
Mhm.
But looking at this, I don't know how to fix it. That's why I'm here with you guys.
Can we take the liberty of, between now and next meeting, looking at the general bylaws as it is now and how it was before? And all of us should think about whether we should be the ones to change, or our view is that the charter is correct. I will tell you from personal, I once represented the West Springfield Planning Board suing the West Springfield Board of Appeals. And both of them got an okay from then, I believe it was the selectmen, to have each attorney.
Right.
Now, I don't know what their bylaws at that point said, but I think we ought to answer this question. Maybe that's not something this,
It may not be in our purview to do
that's
it.
correct.
Right.
But again, without throwing it out, it doesn't give us anything to think about. So
Okay, so we'll come back to that next meeting.
thank you.
You all have your homework assignment. Okay, we're on to section 3, acting town manager. Subsection A, temporary absence. The town manager shall, within the first 90 days of his or her appointment, and at any time thereafter, by letter filed with the town council and a copy filed with the town clerk, designate a qualified town employee to exercise the powers and perform the duties of the office during a temporary absence, period. during the first 10 working days of a temporary absence of the town manager, comma, the town council may revoke such designation by a supermajority vote and, comma, after the expiration of 10 working days, comma, by a majority vote, comma, whereupon it may appoint another qualified town employee to serve as acting town manager until the town manager shall return and resume the manager's duties, period. Questions, comments, discussion?
Who is the acting town manager currently? Or who fills that role?
Jeannie, is there something submitted to you?
The acting town manager as it is today? I don't understand the question.
Oh,
Well, I guess what I'm,
who asked the question? Andy?
Andy?
yeah. So I guess what I'm,
Go ahead, Andy.
so I guess what I'm reading here is once the town manager is appointed, within the first 90 days of being appointed, or at any time thereafter, they have to designate a qualified person to fill the role of acting town manager. Is that right?
You're reading correctly.
Okay. So who is that person?
Larry, I believe Ryan Quimby has filled that position.
He has been, she's been on vacation.
Right.
But what's the temporary absence? What defines a temporary absence? Is that spelled out anywhere?
Yes, it's in definitions.
Yeah.
So how,
Which I think we
Temporary
made a note,
absence is
we made a
absence.
note to revisit that, did we not?
we did.
Yep.
Said it was vague and to table it.
Took care
Yes,
of that.
that's a revisiting because the wording in the definition is rather subjective. It's not like a period of exact date or time. And I don't know if that was an issue at any time since the charter. Does anyone have any knowledge of that? Okay. Okay, so let's get back to Article 3, subsection A. Andy, did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Yep, thank
Okay.
you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, no motion on the floor, I'll presume no action. Subsection B, the vacancy. Any vacancy in the office of town manager shall be filled as soon as possible by the town council, but pending such appointment, the town council shall designate a qualified individual to exercise the powers and perform the duties of the town manager on an acting basis. Period. The appointment of an acting town manager shall be for a term not to exceed 4 months, semicolon, provided, comma, however, comma, one renewal, comma, not to exceed an additional 4 months, comma, may be permitted. Questions, comments? Yes, Ralph.
We ran into a situation where the 4 months didn't seem to be enough. If you're looking for a permanent town manager, by the time you get rolling, you get someone into the position to be an acting town manager, that only gives you a few more months to all of a sudden find someone and designate them. It seemed like a very rushed process. I mean, my thought would be possibly to extend it to 6 months and 6 months. I don't know what anyone else's thoughts were.
Actually, being on the screening committee for the town manager and learning a lot about that process, I would agree with that. 4 months is short, real short.
Question, isn't it really 8 months? Because you have one renewal of 4 months. So aren't we talking about 8 months to find a replacement?
Well, that's if the
Possibly, yes.
decision was made immediately to seek a permanent town manager.
Yeah, and then it says, however, one renewal not to exceed an additional 4 months may be permitted.
Mhm.
So in essence, you're talking about 8 months if you need the extra time. If 4 months doesn't do it, then you have 4 more months.
Right. But in their recent experience, that was very tight.
The 8 months or the 4 months?
Both.
Both.
I can see, based
The other
on
thing that plays in, oh, go ahead, Bill.
based on my experience, on the school committee, 8 months can be a real tight time frame when you're looking for. I mean, when we hired the current superintendent, it took well over a year because you want to do it right.
I'm going to say the other thing that plays into this is the time of the year that you're trying to do this. As
That
I think,
too.
as Bill just said, with a town manager or school superintendent, they have their own calendar, if you will,
Yeah.
or a season. You can try and look for somebody in season or out of season, and if you're out of season, it's difficult.
Yeah, if you're going to start something in July or August, forget it. You're not going to get any bites because people are working on July 1st. I can understand where Ralph's coming from and go to 6 months on both of them.
Any other comments? Yes, Jeannie.
I just have a comment. Then I have notes in the definitions that this definition of vacancy is also vague. So
That's correct.
we're going to table that too. So I don't know if that has any impact on what we're talking about.
Well, the issue of the vagueness has to do with when do you determine when the absence is going to be permanent.
Right.
Town manager might have accrued vacation, sick time, take a month off, and then at the end of the month, say, I'm not coming back.
Mhm.
So that was the other issue within the vagueness there. Again, it's a subjective definition. And who makes that determination? So,
It almost seems too that if you look at the first paragraph, temporary absence, you've got somebody appointed to be the acting, so you go years with a person who is filling in for vacations and sick days and things like that, building up some experience, and the job becomes vacant excuse me, because somebody retires or resigns.
mhm.
Now all of a sudden you throw the door open to bringing somebody brand new in and overlooking that person that's been the acting town manager for years.
Well, we had that experience with Mary, correct? She was appointed acting town manager, and then the town council decided to hire her in a permanent position. That's different than subsection A, where there would be a, what do you call that?
A substitute?
Yeah. I guess, well, they use acting there as well. Yeah. Strike my
I think it's
comment.
different than interim, right?
Yeah,
An
it's
interim
slightly
appointment.
different, because one is, the town manager says, I'll be out for a month.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one, under B, is saying, I'm out and I'm not coming back. So now we'll go back to B. What do I hear from the floor? Do I hear any motions?
Larry, I'd like to make a motion to extend the 4 months to 6 months in both situations. So in, what is it, line 4, the last word would say 6 months, and in line 5, it would also say 6 months.
Is there a second?
Second,
Who was second?
I did.
Andy did. Discussion. Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor, Bill Fonseca,
Yes.
Larry Levine, yes. Bill Adams,
Yes.
Andy Frazier,
Yes,
Jeff Bosworth,
Yes,
Tom Christensen,
Yes.
and Ralph Page.
Yes.
That's unanimous. Subsection C, powers and duties. The powers of an acting town manager shall be limited to matters not admitting of delay, semicolon, provided, comma, however, comma, no acting town manager shall have authority to affect any discipline, comma, suspension, comma, permanent appointment to, comma, or removal from, comma, any town office or position unless approved by the town council, period. Discussion, comments? Yes, Jean?
So I think part of this caused a problem because when Mary McNally was acting town manager,
Mm-hmm.
she couldn't make any appointments to boards and commissions, and it jammed up a lot of boards and commissions in getting appointments filled. So does anybody remember anything like that? I mean, I remember it because she couldn't appoint anybody.
oh, she can if she has permission from the town council. She
Right,
just has to go to the town council and say, I'd like to appoint so-and-so.
right.
I mean, we had people appointed. We
Okay.
had a temporary human resources director. I believe you got appointed.
Well, I'm thinking more boards and commissions. We had a lot of backlog on that, but I think that was also an aftermath of the former manager too. But I just remember that, so I don't know.
Well,
If you want to
basically,
include that with everything else.
basically, we had one person appointed by Mary to the Conservation Commission, but then she balked at doing a second one. And that's why we still have a vacancy that we've had for 2 years now.
Okay.
That item was discussed by the Charter Commission, and it was felt because of the temporary nature of that position
Yeah.
that we wanted some oversight by the town council on those issues
Okay.
during that limited time.
So,
Correct, William and Ralph?
yes.
Yeah.
So just to go into that a little bit further, would be, let's say the town manager goes on vacation for 2 weeks and the acting town manager all of a sudden decides to appoint 3 new people to a board. We didn't want that. Again, and that could be under temporary absence because it's still an acting town manager.
Right.
So that was the thought process when we created the charter and when we were doing it, that we didn't want someone that was doing this only for a very short period of time to be able to appoint all these positions.
Okay.
Yeah, I buy that, but like when we go into the situation where you have an interim town manager, why can't that person go before the council and say, we have all these vacancies, I'd like to appoint these people who are qualified? Rather than
They
just
can,
saying,
they
I
can,
can't.
Jeff.
Huh?
Yeah.
They have the power under the charter to do that.
Yes, they do.
But at the time, the person refused to take any action at all.
Well, that's not the problem with the charter, though.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
That was the time. That was just the person and given the time
Yeah.
and the situation. I think we wrote it this way for that reason, and I think it works.
Mhm.
Yes, Tom?
There's also a catch-all there with the word permanent, which I'm guessing you guys
Yeah.
did on purpose.
Yeah.
Would we do that?
You do everything on purpose, Ralph.
calculated.
Yeah, we know that.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, no motions. I'll consider no action on this. Now we move to section 4, removal, comma, discipline or suspension. Discipline, comma, suspension, comma, and final removal of any town manager shall be effected by a supermajority vote of the town council at a town council meeting. Period. Discussion? Seeing, hearing none, I'll presume no action. We move on to Article 4, other elected offices. Section 1, period, general provisions. The other offices to be filled by ballot of the town's voters shall be a school committee and members of regional authorities or districts requiring election as may be established by general law, comma, interlocal agreements or otherwise, period. Comments, questions, discussion? Seeing and hearing none, no action. And the next paragraph, I'm sorry, so that was the first paragraph in section 1. The second paragraph is, any voter of the town shall be eligible to hold the position of school committee member, comma, but no elected school committee member shall simultaneously hold any other elected town office, period. Questions, discussion, comments? Seeing and hearing none, no action in that portion. Section 2, school committee compensation, semicolon, term, semicolon, compensation, semicolon, powers and duties. There shall be a school committee consisting of 5 members nominated and elected at large by the voters for 3-year terms to begin on July 1, period. Questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, no action on that. That was the first paragraph of section 2. The second paragraph reads, at the first school committee meeting on or after July 1, comma, the school committee shall choose from its membership a chairperson, comma, a vice chairperson, comma, and a clerk, each to serve for a 1-year term of office, period. Discussion, comments, questions? Seeing and hearing none, no action on that paragraph. The next paragraph reads, the school committee may reorganize itself at any time during the year by a supermajority vote of its membership, period. Discussion, questions, comments? None, no action. Next paragraph, compensation for school committee members shall be set by the town council and in the annual town budget, period. Comments, discussion, questions? Seeing none, no action on that paragraph. The next paragraph reads, the school committee shall have all of the powers and duties school committees may have under the Constitution and laws of the Commonwealth, comma, and it shall have such additional powers and duties not inconsistent with said Constitution and laws, comma, as may be authorized by this charter or bylaw, period, or by bylaw, period. Any discussion, questions, comments? Seeing none, no action on that paragraph. And the last paragraph in section 2 is The school committee shall make an annual report as specified in the town bylaws. Discussion, questions? Yes, Ralph?
Just a quick question, actually, I'm gonna form it to Bill. Is it the school committee that does the report, or is it the superintendent that does it?
We charge the superintendent to do it.
Okay, but it's still basically gone through the school committee and presented for the
Yep.
annual report. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? I'll assume no action on that paragraph. Okay. The next section is section 3, school committee vacancy. Whenever a vacancy occurs on the school committee, comma, the president of the town council shall, comma, within 30 days following the date of the vacancy, comma, call a special meeting of the town council and the remaining school committee members to fill the vacancy, period. The town council and remaining school committee members shall choose a person to fill the vacancy from among the voters by a majority vote of the full town council and remaining school committee members, period. Persons appointed to fill a vacancy by the town council and the remaining school committee members shall serve only until the next regular town election, comma, when the office shall be filled by the voters, period. The candidate elected to an office filled by appointment prior to the election shall be sworn to the office immediately to complete the then unexpired term in addition to the term for which elected, period. No vacancy shall be filled under this section if a regular town election is to be held within 120 days following the date the vacancy is declared to exist, comma, but said vacancy shall be filled at the next regular town election by the voters, period. Persons appointed as school committee members under this section shall not be entitled to have the words, quotation, candidate for re-election, close quotation marks, printed with that person's name on the election ballot, period. Questions, comments, discussion? Yes, Ralph?
Fifth line down. Vote of the full town council.
Yes, sir.
So we're just going to go back to the full town council.
Right.
Obviously, the meaning of this may differ depending on what we come up with the meaning for the full town council.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yes, Marilyn?
Just a quick question to those of you who are on the Charter Review Commission. What was attractive with 120 days in terms of when the vacancy takes place? I mean, that's 4 months. Is there some rationale that you can't make, that it's not advisable to make an appointment 4 months before an election, or was there some statute driving that?
My memory? I think it was just picking a time when it was so close to, and probably it was something recommended by the consultant that other towns had done.
Okay.
So Larry,
Ralph.
if I remember correctly, it had to do with, that's usually when your papers are due in for running for an election.
Okay.
And that's where the 4-month time frame came in. Again, I'm a little foggy on exactly what it was, but I remember we had talked about that. Most candidates, it's about 4 months in advance that they have to say that they're going to be running for the position. So
Now that makes sense because, my appointment was almost 10 months and it was in September. And then after the first of the year, I was already getting signatures.
Yep.
So that makes sense. Thank you.
Sense.
Yeah, I think if
Go ahead, Jeff.
I concur with Ralph, because I think there's a certain time frame prior to the election when you have to have your application in stating that you're running for the office.
Right.
Any other discussion? Seeing, hearing none, no motion, we'll presume no action on that. And with that, people, we can conclude for today. Shall I presume we're going to meet next week, same time, 4:30?
Yes, sir.
Excellent, Dr. Mackey. Any other discussion for the committee? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
By William, second by
Jeff?
Jeff.
Second.
All those in favor, William?
Yes.
Larry, yes. Andy?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes, sir.
Jeff?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Okay, people, good job today. Stay well, stay safe.
See you
Next
soon.
week.
Thank you.
Thank you.